The first 5 topic I sent in to my happy, wonderful producer, Matt, was called Bernie Built New York City Riots. We are going to talk about that, but I want to start the show before I even get to that topic to mention, just as I was driving here, someone let me know about Rush Limbaugh having made an announcement that he is battling advanced lung cancer, late-stage lung cancer. So Rush Limbaugh, big announcement today that he's battling advanced lung cancer. And all I want to say about that is this. I urge everyone, I assume my listeners are prayers, I urge everyone to pray for his health, pray for his recovery. He is going to be still doing his show, and now he may be missing some, but he's going to be doing his show. And, I just want to say about Rush Limbaugh and the world of conservatism in America. America's conservative energy and passion has been largely reignited by Rush Limbaugh, decades on air. And what is so wonderful about him is his ability to take complex things that for most Americans, they just don't pay attention to, or they don't really think they understand, or they assume these decisions and policies have to be left to the wizards in Wall Street or the wizards in Washington, and they can't understand them. He has for decades taken very complex ideas and made them understandable to the common Joe, and therefore made the common American think like they do have a place in the American political conversation. They do call into his show and say, hey, I never knew about this before. I never understood this before, but thank you so much for explaining it. So just prayers for his complete recovery. Rush Limbaugh, just an American legend in talk radio, and really largely responsible for the growth, not just in the understanding of conservatism in this country, but the ability to engage in the conversation on a national level was really reignited by his talk show. But I want to turn to my real first 5 today, what I had planned ahead of that news, about Bernie building the New York City riots. If you didn't know, in the subway system in New York City, over last Friday was January 31st, and the people who orchestrated it called the J31 riots for January 31st. I had a clip of one of the organizers who put it out in a tweet, bravely hiding behind with masked faces, the speaker and 2 others, urging people to join J31, to be part of the riots. There were riots at the New York City subway stations and train stations. I am not talking about peacefully standing there holding up signs, making a demand. I'm talking about disruptive, loud riots, destruction of property, pouring glue onto the turnstile, the little thing that reads your card. So if you purchased a card ahead of time, you can get into the subway stations. And so this was a massive, disruptive, windows broken, property damaged, loud, taunting. And the reason I didn't want to play the tweet that these cowards did is because it's so laden with the F word that it just distracts from what the points I want to make about it. But let me just tell you why they're doing this. When you hear the level of anger in their tweets, in their statements, you would think they were protesting, segregation in America or protesting slavery. They are on the march in New York City with this J31 rally to demand no one should have to pay to ride in the New York City subway. It has to be free. Transportation, in their view, as they said, transportation should be free. They have a right to free transportation. They want no more metropolitan police officers in the subway system. No more police officers who are down there making sure that people don't jump the turnstiles or engage in violence or engage in crime. They're saying no, free transportation for everyone, no more police officers, no metropolitan officers down there. And they're accusing the Metropolitan Transportation Authority of singling out people because of their skin color and arresting them or giving them the fines they get for jumping the turnstiles or failing to pay for their ride. So and I want to just read you some of the quotes from some of the protesters. 80 to 100, so they started out at the Grand Central Terminal. Many people have been there, a huge, huge station. Grand Central started out, their chant was F, only they said the word, F the police, chanted at Grand Central, then how do you spell racist, NYPD. Then they went from Grand Central Station down to the 42nd Street, headed down 42nd Street toward the Bryant Park subway stop. Some of them stormed that, even though the police were trying to stop them. Then on to the 6th Avenue and West 42nd Street subway station. So here are some of the quotes. "We're for the right to free transit," said Esther Sanchez, 23 of Brooklyn. "The cops are in the subway." This is their new expression. "The cops are in the subway to criminalize poverty." They're saying if you get arrested because you jump the turnstile, won't pay the $2.75 it costs to ride the subway, that you must be poor, and therefore if you're arrested for not paying your fee, that cops are criminalizing poverty. They target black and brown bodies. Another protester, "Transit is a right." The protester, Ian Evans, 22, "We need to get to work." That's his reason why transportation has to be free, because he needs to get to work. We need to be able to get to school. So they had all these riots, protests, property damage, very foul-mouthed language sprayed onto the, spray painted onto the walls of the subways, F the police. Their big slogan for that day was FTP, which is F the police, plus they say it also stands for Free the People. But the larger point I want to make it and tie it into Bernie Sanders' campaign. The organizers behind this, first of all, you got to know there's Soros money somewhere behind this, but the organizers behind this are pushing the argument that and pushing the mission that protests like this, they are designed to, their goal is to become ungovernable. That's what they say. If you like this story I'm talking about, you want to read about it, you can go to our website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage, under list of links, you can look up the story. This is their language. You must become ungovernable. They talk about, they actually maps up. This was a huge organized protest. Maps up describing New York City as an area of occupation, showing they're referring to the government of our country as the area of occupation, and where they are engaging in this violence and obviously interfering with hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding Americans who need to ride the subway to go to work or to school and can't get on because they are blocked by the protesters. But the protesters call their actions, they describe on a map they put out on Twitter, the theater of operations. Where they're going, the places they want to disrupt. It is their theater of operations. They have it is an 11-page, single-spaced, typed out memo describing all their missions, and essentially is to undermine capitalism. In fact, there's a tweet they had out I sent to Matt, the wonderful producer. We can show you this tweet. It was a picture taken of one of the protests at the New York City subway. Kill capitalism. Kill capitalism. As I say, every other little video I looked at to possibly play for you is so laden with F-bombs that it just is not appropriate for this show that where we actually intelligently discuss the ideas. So New York City protesters, and they literally are pushing the idea they're living under occupation. Capitalism is evil. It must be ended. They have the right to be given free transportation. Just take one moment. The argument or the point made years ago in the slogan, "There is no such thing as a free lunch." When they say they want free transportation, they're saying that the cost of building the subway, keeping the subway clean, keeping it policed, operating safely, doing maintenance on the subways and everything that must be done on the turnstiles, all of that costs money, but they're entitled to use all of it for free. So they're saying that the hardworking, law-abiding taxpayers must continue to fund this transportation system, so they have the right to have it be free to them. And I'm going to close out my first 5 by saying this kind of thinking comes directly, not just exclusively from Bernie Sanders, but from the kind of campaign he is running, by the kind of political ideas he's infesting America with, by the ideas he is selling to young, ignorant Americans to think they have a right to everything they want for free, and if they don't, they have the right to engage in violence. A lot of violence in the protests in New York where, F the police and shut down the police, and they shouldn't be even without being in the subway. You might want they also talk about the right of people to sleep in the subways. They are protesting the Metropolitan Transportation Authority for, rousing people who are just making the subways their home, saying, a subway is designed here to be a transportation system for people to use in our city. I get around, and I really am closing out the first 5 at this point to say this. This thinking did not come out of thin air. It came out of the minds and the thinking and the speaking of years and years of indoctrination of young Americans into the notion that capitalism is evil, freedom is bad, free markets are bad, the police are evil. All of those arguments coming from the American left, and they really are culminating in the campaign this time in 2020 of Bernie Sanders to become president of this country, and that is what we'll turn to talk about next.